La, la, la. Welcome once again to the Letterman Podcast. I am Mike Chisholm. I am so excited to be doing these shows, and it shows that I'm excited about it because it's starting to catch fire a little bit. I got a lot of people who've been reaching out and supporting what it is that we're doing. Hey, if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. I hate being a broken record talking about that, liking and subscribing stuff, but that is the world that we live in right now. Please like, subscribe. And if you want to go that extra mile and write a nice comment or share, we'd appreciate that too. But I'm going to ask that now. I'm also going to, I believe these podcasts are being shot out of order. So this is not the first time I'm doing this, but it might be the first time the public is seeing me do this, depending on the order of how we release these shows. Doesn't matter. I got to do it because, you know, got to keep the sponsors happy. And we got a sponsor. We got one sponsor, the lone brave sponsor so far of the Letterman podcast is the Hello Deli. So we would like to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Hello Deli, Rupert and Company at the Hello Deli, right there in the heart of New York City, nestled in the womb of the Ed Sullivan Theater, selling sandwiches and spreading smiles and joy. Please, if you live in New York, go frequent the Hello Deli. If you don't live in New York, but you'd like a piece of the Hello Deli or a piece of the Late Show with David Letterman, go to hello-deli.com. If your Late Show mug has broken and you are heartbroken along with its broken porcelain pieces, never fear, you can go and get another one at the Hello Deli, hello-deli.com. You can get Late Show with David Letterman shirts. You can get Rupert shirts, all sorts of stuff. We are so grateful that they are our sole sponsor so far of the Letterman podcast. So shout out to Rupert and May and everybody at the Hello Deli. Let's get to it. Now, this podcast, there's a lot of people in the world who I could say this next statement for, that the Letterman podcast would not exist if it wasn't for this person. And the reason being is I believe since that night in 2015, that's kind of where, when I saw Dave that night, I believe that's where the Letterman podcast was birthed. But there have been a lot of breadcrumbs and things that have happened along the way to create a pathway to lead us to this very, very moment. And if any one of those breadcrumbs wasn't on that path, this would not be happening. One of the major breadcrumbs, fact, he might have been an entire piece of bread in that pathway, is a guy by the name of Arthur Kelly. Artie, the one-man party. You might remember him from the show. If you worked for the show, he answered the phones on Dave's floor. If you watched the show, you watched him on Coach's Corner. Now, I've talked with Artie. Artie and I are friends. We've talked a lot. When I started doing podcasting, I was kind of getting going for my men's mental wellness podcast that I host called HeCast. And I didn't know what to do, how to do it, anything like that. And Artie and I had already been communicating. I thought, hey, can I like do a video call with you and record it? And ask you questions about working at the Late Show and being on Coach's Corner, being Mike Singletary, and it would give me a real thrill to do it. And he said, sure, absolutely, let's do it. Now, that interview's around. You can find it. I stepped all over it. I was not very good at this. Some would say I'm still not very good at this, but then I was really not very good at it. So I stepped all over Artie as he was talking. I was getting used to the Zoom back and forth. But he has, our friendship has continued on. And we've talked a lot. We've social media, things like that. Artie, the one-man party. Artie is one of the funniest people. He is, I don't even know how to describe him except for saying one of a kind, goofball, willing to put himself out there and put smiles on people's faces. I love that about Artie, is that if he can just put smiles on people's faces, he would do that. He is a guy that marches to the beat of his own drum. I know a little bit about that as well. He gave me my first pants jacket out of his collection, and I'm wearing it right now. There's actually footage of me. My wife was smart enough, when the package arrived, she got a video, got her phone out and took video of me opening up my very first worldwide pants jacket that Artie sent, and he sent a note along with it that said, "Welcome to the family." That was one of the most special moments. It brought me to tears. I'm not, ashamed to say it brought me to tears. the documentary that's being shot, we might include that footage on the documentary of me getting my first pants jacket. I'm wearing it right now. I'm wearing it because I became friends with, and I'm just so grateful for the relationship I have with Artie, the one-man party. Arthur Kelly, thank you so much for finally being on the Letterman podcast. It's going to be your first of many appearances. How you doing in your Jersey, right?
Yes.
How's Jersey today, buddy?
Mike, let me just say, once again, I want to thank you once again for wasting your time bringing me on and your podcast. It's unbelievable. And I like the work you're doing, as I mentioned before. So once again, I want to thank you for wasting your time.
Oh, well, hey, no problem. I look at it as an investment of time, but we're gonna get squabbled in semantics and words there. You're wearing your Late Show 18 shirt. Every year they gave the staff t-shirts as to what year of the Late Show it was. I want to ask you real quick, first and foremost, we're not going to start talking about the Singletary stuff and all that stuff. That'll come into it because we're friends now. We've talked about this so much, but our viewing audience and our listening audience hasn't heard it yet. So every time we go into some of these stories, it might be their first time hearing it. It's cool. Tell me about when Dave would go by and he would whip things at you. Let's do that. You answered the phones on his floor, and many times you interacted with Dave outside of when you were on the show, right?
Well, the rifling of these items, for some strange reason, he would come blazing out of the door and he would rifle off maybe a carrot or a grape or whatever he had at lightning speed. And amazing, I was able to catch it because I have quick hands. But it was good exercise and it was fun. But I never really got the gist of it, but it was good.
But it happened a lot, right? Like, I mean, even
every day.
Every day.
How to do the show.
Is there somebody on the planet who can say, hey, every single day in my workspace, David Letterman would whip something at me to keep my hands, my fast hands ready to go? I'm not sure that there is. If you watch the last day in the, go ahead.
There is one. So one day that I was absent, out sick, and he didn't even know that I was out. So he came blazing out of the door, and it was an intern sitting in. And he threw it, and whatever he threw bounced off her head. So
outstanding, even better.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're past the statute of limitations, and if there was a lawsuit, it's well settled by now, so we can tell those tales out of school. We're good.
Yeah. There was one other person I could think of.
One other person you could think of that he whipped stuff at. Okay. Yeah. If you watch on the very last Letterman episode on the Late Show, there's a compilation, a day in the life video, and actually you can see footage of it really quick. You can see Letterman running down the hall and going, Artie, and I think he whipped it. I don't know if it was a tape ball or whatever, but anyway, that was this man's life for a long time, and you loved it. You talk about how you and I have talked privately about how the staff was so eclectic. They were from people from different places of life, different times in life, of ages and things like that, different experiences and backgrounds. Right. Yours, very unique where you came from, and compared to a lot of the other folks who worked for the show.
Well, yeah, absolutely, most definitely. Different worlds. But the thing is, I understood that, when you're working with people, you're working with the people. So, it was a great group of people that I worked with. So the thing is, you blend in, because everyone got along. I never had any issues with anyone. No one had any issues with me that I know of. So it was it. But the thing is, there was a little bit of difference, because of, different things. I don't know,
Sure.
And how people view comedy, what people grew up with. A lot of the people, they had been with this organization for like 30 years. Yeah. As a newcomer, I had no idea what was going on. I know it was comedy, but I had never seen the show before.
Yeah, you know what? Let's it might not be a bad idea to talk about. It was kind of a headhunter that it was an agency that forwarded you to this job, right? Was it 2000? Was that the year?
Yes, 2000.
Yeah. And you kind of answered an ad. It wasn't like, there's a lot of us, we've talked to folks on the Letterman podcast so far where they talk about being an intern. We had Daniel Kellison, Mark Malkov, a few others that talked about either being an intern or getting on that way. And they like clawed and scraped, and it was like their life's ambition to do that. But it's interesting that you got your place from an agency rather than being an enthusiast.
No. Yeah. I came straight from the streets. I remember it was the coldest day in January. I already had a job prior to that. I was working at Goldman Sachs. And so I was looking for something else. I didn't know what that something else was. So I had sent my resume, because I used to work as a headhunter myself prior to all of this stuff. And so I know how that works. And they saw my background. They brought me in. They thought I would be great to work for them. And then at the end of the day, the woman says, I have an opportunity that you may be interested in. Okay, well, what is it? She says, it's working for Worldwide Pants. So my first thought is, what is Worldwide Pants? I'm like, Jesus, I'm really not looking to leave, Goldman Sachs to work for a garment factory. But I said, well, let's go anyway. So she said, it's 1697 Broadway. And I figured, well, that's not too far. So I walk up Broadway and I see this marquee and I'm thinking, well, what the hell is this? I see the Late Show, but I don't see any Worldwide, because I'm looking for those Worldwide Pants.
Sure.
And she says, you have to go into the entrance on the Ed Sullivan Theater building. So I go there and I said, well, where is this Worldwide Pants? And then I go to the human resources. I met with the human resources manager, Janice Canino, wonderful person.
Yep.
Kathy Mavrikakis, and David Letterman's personal assistant, the lovely Laurie Diamond. And I met with them. We chatted, and that was it. I didn't think anything of it. I figured, well, that's it. I just went and met with them. I just want to go home because it's the coldest day, and I'm like thinking, the interview was like 5:30, 6 o'clock. Like, what kind of setup is this? Who's going to interview somebody at 5:30 or 6? And so I, go, and then I meet with them. I didn't think anything of it. I just went with them. I figured that's a formality. People nice to you. Well, yes, we'll be in contact with you. You look nice. We love your suit. You're looking like Harry Belafonte. All these wonderful things. And then after that, I go back to work, and then I get a phone call from the agency. And they says, how did the interview go? I said, well, it went well. He said, what did you think? I said, well, nice people. And she says, are you interested? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess. She says, well, they're interested. And then that's when we became engaged and we got married.
You just named a bunch of people that we would love to have on this show and to talk to them as well, because we're all charmed by this. I think a lot of us who love Letterman understand the fact that there was a family that was there, and it included all sorts of stuff. All the dysfunction that comes with a family, of course, was there, but of course also the joy and many other things. When you started working there, how long did it take you to realize? You said 30 years or some of those people were there. How long did it take you to realize that you were part of a family?
I would probably say it took maybe a couple years, because when I went there, I had no expectations of being part of anything. I just figured I'd come and provide the service, and that's it. But then as I started to look at the people, when I first came, my first day, I met the Rob Burnett, and I met some of the other people. And this is a different setup because they were warm. They came over, introduced themselves, and they told me who they were. So I started to realize it was a different setup versus where I was in the corporate sector, because, the John Corzines, they weren't really that cordial. They figured, who we are, you soon our pictures, we're the gods, we're the heads, and that's it. But this environment was a little bit different. And that's when I started to realize I was in a different place.
And it's a little goofy, right? Like, I mean, I can imagine not nearly as straight-laced as being on Wall Street.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Because some of the antics that I saw there, you could never, pull anywhere else. You'd be immediately fired.
Okay. So, is there one that we can, everybody's safe and it's not telling tales out of school? Is there an antic there that you can talk about that comes to mind as you say that?
Let me think. There's so many.
I love hearing that.
Let me think. Let me just figure out one that really runs to my mind. How about I'll stick with myself?
Sure.
So one of the antics that I pulled probably, I'm trying to think. There's so very few of them, because I remember once we had an issue with, an issue with a broadcast that took place, and I just took it upon myself to disregard a diplomat, that wanted to speak to Mr. Letterman, because I felt, well, listen, it's only by appointment only. Do you have an appointment? And so that was probably, something that I think one of my buffoonery moves.
Okay. Yep.
And then Tony Mendez, we love Tony Mendez. Tony Mendez, this guy was full of antics.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He was full of, I would just sit back and watch him. I would be like, Jesus, did he just really do that? Did he pull that?
I love that. The fact that so we'll get to Inky in a second, because I hope anyway, now that the official Letterman channel is doing its thing and putting out a lot of this amazing content that hasn't been unearthed many times, hasn't been unearthed for years. I can't wait. I hope that there's an opportunity for them to give some love to the Tony Mendez show, because I mean, that's the show within the show, the sub show that happened, online stuff that they did really early on, experimental stuff. And then Tony brought his own, like you say, his own personality to things. I'm glad you mentioned his name. We've talked about him a little bit on the show, but we're going to talk about him a lot more moving forward for sure. But the diplomat that I mean, how do you know, right? Because at the end of the day, that's a big part of your job, which is why I can see why it was such a, to have Lori involved personally and some of these other folks, Kathy involved personally into this, because at the end of the day, you were one of the last lines of defense directly to Dave. And not only did you have diplomats calling who you accidentally gave the closed door to, but you had a lot of crap that you dealt with too. You had crazy phone calls and obsessive fan phone calls and protest phone calls and things like that all the time, didn't you?
Oh, I missed them. Yes, indeed. Every day. Oh, every day. Let me just tell you a real brief story.
Sure.
I'm trying to make it quick as possible because I know we're pressed for time.
No, we're not. You do what you got to do.
There was a photo of Dave on the corner of 53rd and Broadway.
Yep.
And in the subway, I would be right across the street every morning before I would come to go into the building. I would look up at the photo and I would say, oh, dear Lord, what is our day going to be like today? Because I knew each day was going to be a roller coaster ride.
Right.
And it's continuous throughout the day, but it was exciting. It was fun, but the thing is, with complaints and demands and all sorts of things, we got the kings, the queens, everybody calling, everybody's a star. Everybody who has a guitar wants to come on the show. If you have a banjo or harmonica, they want to come on. Can I speak to Paul Schaefer? Can I join the band? Ridiculous things. But hey, listen, that's what they paid me for, and I enjoy doing it. As crazy as it may seem, because I'm crazy.
Sure. Well, and you are, you're the right kind of crazy. I love your brand of crazy. Because you've broken the mold. You're an individual in that regard. I love how, and we'll get to this as whether it's this episode or other episodes that you and I have, because you and our buddies, we're going to get to that, how that the performer in you now, like when you look and see what you're doing now, and just for the hell of it sometimes, and I mean, watching some of the antics that you do now, you've told me before that performer side of you was awakened because of the show, because of Coach's Corner, because of the let's try this, let's put Artie up and make him Mike Singletary and make him scream crazy things all the time, stuff that lines the writers would feed you and all that kind of stuff. That ignited the performer in you, didn't it?
Well, absolutely, yeah. Because actually, when they first came to me with the idea, excuse me.
Sure.
I'm like, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And then they told me how it was going to be done. I said, oh no, thank you. And then the writers, they said, well, give it a try, give it a shot. And I said, okay, don't expect much, because I'm no actor or performer. I don't know what I'm doing.
Or a football coach for that matter. Yeah.
And so they said, give it a go. And I said, okay, fine. And I thought it was going to be a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
And it turned out it was a continuous thing, but hey, stranger things have happened. And I figured that gave me an idea that, maybe I could do something else. Maybe there's something there that I never knew I could do. It only took that one little opportunity, to give me the idea, because all it is an idea, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm just fooling around, playing with ideas. That's it.
Okay, so if people want to see what it is that you're doing, where's the best place to come and see that? Let's talk about that right now. You're doing the Comedy Lemonade. Are you doing stand-up as well? So yeah, what are all the things that you're doing right now to kind of exercise this muscle that was discovered on that day?
So I'm gonna just go through a couple of things that
Sure.
I don't have to overload myself with a lot of different things, because sometimes my concentration is not where I really want it to be.
Yeah.
So in December of last year, I joined up with Bigo. It's a live stream, and they were looking for hosts.
Yep.
I said, okay, what the hell? What is, I work for hosts. It seemed like it's something you could do. So they said, well, how would you like to have an audition? Sure, why not? What do you want me to do? And they talk. They didn't really tell me what to do. They just said, download the app and sit in front of the camera and talk. They want to see what your presentation was. And then my first audition, I failed because I was fooling around with the buttons, like, ooh, what's this? Click, click. And that threw the audition off. And then they were kind enough to give me a second audition. And they said, well, you passed the audition. Really? Now, what do I do? This, well, you're going to host a live stream. And I'm like, well, okay, what is that? So, and then it's a very interesting platform. So the thing is, doing the live stream, about probably in January, they approached me. They said, how would you like to host your own show here on Bigo?
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, did you not just see the audition? And you're asking me would I like to have my own show? What kind of show would I have? Only thing I could do is show out. And so they says, well, come up with a concept or a content of something. So I figured, well, what the hell? I said variety comedy. So I have a little variety comedy show there on Bigo, which is like from 7:30 to 8. I haven't done much with that because I'm just concentrating on the live stream.
Yeah.
But as I get more into the couple upcoming months, I'm going to put more emphasis on that, because I got to get better guests, because for that, I don't want to have the same guests I have on my live stream.
Right. Okay. So if people want to see this stuff, where do they go to see it?
They have to download the app for Bigo Live.
How do you spell that?
BIGO.
Okay. Bigo. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, download the app, and then you'll create your, same thing like Facebook. You provide, create your profile, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, you'll be able to find me. There's a flyer that I posted on Facebook. You'll be able to see my ID number, because they changed it. Before they had a set of numbers.
Yeah.
It looked like I was a prisoner. and so they changed it. They said, well, let's give you a name. And so my ID name is It's a Party.
It's a Party.
No, Let's Party. My ID name is Let's Party. My show
Let's
is
Party. Okay. Because you are Artie the one-man party.
Yeah, that's it. Artie the one-man party.
I love that so much. Okay, so Bigo, people can see you there. And what about the stand-up stuff? Because I mean, when you and I first connected, it was me kind of going, oh my God, it's the guy who played Mike Singletary. This is amazing. And I had, it was full of questions, and immediately I said, do you still perform anywhere? Is this something that you want to get into? And you said, yeah, I want to get into stand up. Now this is right around the time the pandemic was sort of happening and all of that stuff. And so you had always said, yeah, I want to get into it. You like the improv stuff. It's not so much the prepared material where you're going back and forth. You love to just go up and make people laugh. Have you been doing that now that the pandemic has started to cease a little bit?
Well, I have not done as much as I like. I'm looking probably maybe next month in August to maybe do 1 or 2 local places. Yeah. I've been working with the Comedy Lemonade people, doing the improv comedy with them, because that's a group that I met back in 2020 on Facebook.
Yep.
And asked me, to join them. Because, they asked me to send some material. Well, what do I send? Coach's Corner. I figured I send that to them, and they thought that was wonderful. They said, "Oh my goodness, would you like to join us?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So I joined them in 2020, and then after that, then last year, they didn't do much in terms of taping. Right. And so this year they asked me would I like to rejoin them this year, and I said sure, why not? So I've been working with them now, and they're going to start taping in August. They'll be their third season, so I'm concentrating on that plus the hosting. But I'll probably pop my head on the stage somewhere, around. I only did one stand-up,
Yep.
Yeah, that was in 2019.
Yeah.
I don't even know why. I just went up there. I said, what the hell am I going to do? People looking at me, just automatically click, boom.
And it just went. You just let it go, and you started doing stuff on Facebook. You were doing the Artie, the one-man party videos. We're going to take some of them, and we're going to share them into the Letterman podcast group, because it's just, I love it, because I love you, and I know that's just you just letting it go, and the improv and all the stuff that comes from, and then suddenly you're starting to shout people out and things, because there are people who are looking at what you're doing going, what is it? What I don't really get it. But at the same time, you can't really look away, because it's so funny. The get-ups you would come up with, whether you go to the 99-cent store, whether you go to wherever you go to get some of these things, some throwback stuff from the 90s music, all this sort of stuff. And then Artie's just there being Artie. You love putting smiles on people's faces.
Well, yeah, that's about it, because I realize that we're in a society now, you're probably more likely to find someone to bring tears to you than joy. It's very rarely that when we're in that state now that people are angry. So the thing is, it's kind of difficult for people to find someone that's going to bring something that's positive and joyful, because we always expect to see the worst of human beings, and we're probably experiencing that. So my thing is, because I'm not in that kind of way of thinking, so I bring what I am and who I am, like it or not. And the one-man party thing was an accident. Once again, everything I do is an accident.
Sure. What was the reaction when you started doing those videos? Because you've got, I don't even know how to say it properly, in this day and age without getting people, you've got the urban background and folks around you and all that, the old neighborhood, all that kind of stuff. When you started throwing that stuff out there, what were people's reactions who grew up around you and who knew you?
Well, the people that I knew growing up, they were all negative, especially the guys, even the women, because the thing is, but through them is when they saw me put on the lipstick and the fingernail polish.
Okay, here we go. So yep.
So the thing is, that's where, because people never seen me in a different way. They've always seen me, just being the guy that I am. And they couldn't make the difference between the comedy of it all, and looking at it from a different angle. So, and then there's the negativity that comes like, well, man, don't you think you're too old to be joking around like that? But that's to be expected, because I understand the mentality, I understand the people.
Sure.
And then I understand that, as before working for someone, that when you're doing your thing, there's going to be people that's not going to like what you're doing. They're going to find fault. They're going to say negative things. But it never deterred me. And it's pretty much like I said, it came up out of accident. One day I bought a new iPhone, and I never recorded myself. So I'm like doing a little playing around, and I hit the record button, and I see myself on camera. And I'm thinking, well, what do I do now? So I start playing around in front of the camera. And then I played it back, and I looked, I said, well, this thing's, if I'm going to do this, it's got to be doctored up. So that's when I started putting the music in, dancing and jingling all over the place. And then I started altering the appearance with party stuff. And it made me feel good. I enjoyed doing it. And then when I started watching, I said, well, this is not too bad. Let me just keep doing it. And that's how I started Fun Fridays.
Right. I love Fun Fridays. I miss Fun Fridays and how you had it. Here's a wish that I would have for you. I wish a funk band, and I'm talking like a throwback funk band from the late 70s, early 80s, like a real with horns and the whole 9 yards. I wish that a funk band would see you, discover you, and say, okay, there's our hype man. There's our guy who's gonna, because I mean, you'd be wearing the tuxedo, but the glitter and all the stuff and just the energy that you put out, even in those 2 or 3 minute videos. And I love that you use the word joy, because that's what I got from it. And you and I are both similar creatures in the fact that we love joy. Like, we just love fun. Joy it's such a great thing. And I think you'd hit the nail on the head, man. In the time and place and culture that we live in right now, boy, is the joy getting sucked out of it sometimes, isn't it?
Well, most definitely, because everything that you, even with comedy, there's it was built on fun and entertainment, but now it becomes controversial.
Yep.
So if you go on stage and you say, well, something about tissues, then that becomes an issue for people who have a thing with tissues. So everything now becomes an issue. And you have to just ignore all that and just go out there and do what you do and let the chips fall where it may.
Sure. And shout out to the anti-tissue authority out there group. No, everything. You're right. Everything for whatever reason.
Yeah. Even small, simple things like tissues. It's like, why are you not knocking Kleenex?
Yeah. I mean, hell, let's start something here. Let's start a war between the tissue folks and the toilet paper folks. Toilet paper is just fine. That's all you need. It's a separate, well, I appreciate that about you. I do, because I think that you are a light in the darkness. And certainly, I mean, I'm not going to go into some of the other personal stories that you've told me about folks around you and some of the folks you grew up with and still have, kind of a foot in that world. But the fact that you are a light in the darkness for so many people that are just in your world. And I think if we just did that, we don't have to all be David Letterman, who, the entire world sees. We can be that little bit of light in the darkness, that little bit of laughter in a world that needs more laughter. We can do that locally with our local group and just do things for the sake of doing them. And you never know, suddenly Bigo, BIGO, suddenly says, okay, yeah, let's give this guy a show. I just love that about you. And yeah, man.
Yeah. Because, on that app, you have some real heavy hitter hosts. You got Nicki Minaj.
Yep.
She's the host. And then you've got so many others, but these are people that stand out. Nicki Minaj. And then you have Perez Hilton,
Sure.
The gossip columnist.
Yep.
So the thing is, you've got so many different people that are real top hosts that's on this app, and I'm thankful that I've gotten the opportunity to join that group.
Yeah.
So
it's not a matter of oh, well, do you think you're ever going to become famous in that? Or are you ever going to? No, you don't get it. You don't get that the exercise. It's like me with this show. I'm so grateful and again, flabbergasted is the word that I use every single day, because every single day I have somebody asking me about this. I didn't do this to get an audience per se. I did this because I'm a really big believer. I hate how fast Johnny Carson was forgotten, and I'll be damned if that happens with Dave, because everything that you guys did, that Dave and company did, that's you included, has created wiring in between my temples, and I think it's the greatest body of work in broadcasting history. I'll say that, I'm like a broken record. I did this because I wanted to be a torchbearer for that, to throw that information out there and to pass it on. I didn't do it to get an audience. And thank goodness, because the audience that's coming now and being a part of what we're all doing, and I include you in this too, you're a part of this. You're part of our community already. You're already part of our family. We're not doing it to get an audience, but the bonus on top, the cherry on top, is this audience is coming, and now they're adding extra dimensions to what it is that we're doing. And it's such a beautiful thing, but the act itself scratches the itch. If nobody would have watched this show, just you and I talking that very first time where I stepped all over you, that scratched such an itch in me to do that. And I think that if people out there would scratch some of those itches that they dare not scratch, they would probably find some extra satisfaction that might not be in their lives currently.
That's absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. So, you know, the thing is, you know, you have to just, you know, if you have that desire to try something, you know, like the Coach's Corner thing,
Yes.
that was unexpectedly, you know, I didn't think I was going to really, you know, do much out of it. You know, after the first time, I figured, they said, oh my God, why did we bother? Why did we waste our time?
Yeah.
And I was extremely nervous because and then, you know, when the pressure that's applied on you, you know, because now you're performing in front of a live audience, and then you're working with the host, you know, so now you're trying to concentrate. And then, like I said, I've never done this before. So just imagine if somebody takes you out to the ocean and say, jump in, and you never swam before.
Yep.
You know, so once you're in the water, you just, well, I got to figure out something. That's how I did it.
While you're flailing about in the water, certainly did something. It resonated with a lot of people. It was so funny. Let's talk a little bit about that. So let's say, you know, you're 3 or 4 episodes in, you're starting to get your feet under you a little bit, doing the Coach's Corner thing. And who is it? Like how, okay, you've got cue cards. I know it's scripted, but at the same time, did you also have writers throwing lines at you that you would just throw out there as well? Who were the writers that you dealt with for that material? Because some of it was just plain crazy. It was awesome.
Well, yeah. The first time around was real crazy because I remember Bill Sheff was in the wings somewhere.
Yep.
And I was repeating what he was saying. It was a horrible performance. I look back at it now. It was probably, compared to what I was doing later on, yep, probably the most horrible performance because, you know, you would hear Bill Sheff, you know, saying something, then I'm just repeating what he was saying. Sure. So, you know, it was really not good. But yeah, the cue cards, and Bill Sheff was one of the writers, and the Stengel brothers, they were writers. And then I understand the host was also contributing to the writing of the one.
And is there any feeling like when, you know, I mean, I don't know if you would say to yourself, because you were off in another section of the theater when you were doing this, right? It was kind of off a little bit. And does it go through your mind that, you know, 6 million people, whatever it is, are watching right now, never mind the audience in front of you? And did you get a rush from it? Like when you finished your performance, were you was the adrenaline going all through you every single time? Or did you get to the place where you were kind of rock solid and, man, yeah, no, let's just do this?
Well, no, never rock solid, you know, because every time when the camera went off, I was like, oh, you know, then I was like, how did I do? You know, but the thing is, it never dawned on me, you know, because I knew the audience was watching. Yep. So, you know, in the studio, but the thing is, later on at night, and I never watched it, to be honest with you. The only in 2015, it was the first time I started watching some of the Coach's Corners. Because prior to that, I was petrified of watching myself.
Wow.
And so I'll tell a little quick story. So, you know, what I would do at night is come home and turn the television on and go into another room and listen to what was going on, but not watching. And so when I heard the audience laughing, I said, wow, this thing must be working. But I never really watched it. I never really paid much attention to anything other than just doing it. You know, I'm a robot, you know. Like, I was pretty much like, let me just give you an example. You know, every day it was like, The Late Show, that's it, I'm a machine. So the thing is, you know, I didn't really think much about, you know, anything other than just doing the work and making sure I did it correctly and making sure that the audience enjoyed it and the host liked it and the staff. So, because the thing is, the key thing was to make people laugh. If I didn't hear people were laughing, I felt I didn't do a good job.
we're gonna PS that what you just said there. You doing a good job. I know how I want to finish the episode here, because there's something very sweet that happened that I want to get you to repeat. The first thing I want to do though, before we do that, I know when you and I do this, I always say time gets slippery. We're already 40 minutes into this. And first off, assure the audience, you're going to come back. You got lots of stories at Coach's Corner, lots of stories about in the theater that we can talk about. And you're going to be a member of our community. You already are a member of our community. We're going to have you back. Okay. But I got to talk to you about this jacket a little bit, because I haven't addressed it really on the Letterman podcast yet. You know, I've got a decent Letterman collection so far, always adding to it, of course. Got some scripts, got some postcards and things like that. We just had one of the bridges arrive, so that's going to be part of our set soon. Very excited about that. But this night in 2015, the exchange that Dave and I had, I was being a bit of a brat, and I got some good reaction out of Dave, and I made him laugh, and that was all good. But one of the questions I asked for one of these jackets, because these jackets, I mean, if you're an enthusiast of the show, these jackets, you see the staff wearing them, you see every once in a while Dave gives one to somebody, you recognize what it is exactly. And that night, even though I had really one of the greatest experiences of my life that night, with my wife and I getting our picture behind the desk, having the encounter with Dave, all of that stuff was amazing. I never did get my jacket, and it was kind of funny that way. It was a good life lesson. But now, that being said, time moves forward, all sorts of shit hits the fan, the stuff with my granddaughter, Children's Hospital, all that stuff. We've talked a little bit about that. I come home. While she was at Children's Hospital, I had written out my experience. You and I connected shortly thereafter. I think it was in Rob Cates's Letterman fan group. Shout out to Rob Cates. Yeah, he's coming back on. Rob Cates is going to come back on the show. And then you and I started connecting, and we became friends and all this sort of stuff. And then there was a day in January. I think you tried to get it here for Christmas, but it didn't. It was about a week later. In early January, a big box shows up. It's from New York, and I see or from New Jersey, I should say. And I see that. Oh God, I think I might know what this is. My wife gets the video camera out, and it's the sweetest moment ever. I pull out this Worldwide Pants jacket from you, and it's from you. And you wrote a note to me that said, "Mike, welcome to the family," and it was one of the most thoughtful things to put a smile on my face. It brought out childlike, I can only describe it as childlike joy when you did that for me. And I hate that it took this long, even though we're only 12, 13 episodes into this. I hate that it took only 12 or 13 episodes. That's 12 or 13 episodes too long to have you on here, but at least we've got an audience coming and stuff now. So now I can say it so other people can hear it. And I know that's not why you did it, but Artie, thank you from the bottom of my heart for this thing. It means the world to me. Dude.
It's my pleasure. When I realized that you were a friend of the show, and I felt you were deserving of a jacket, because I had other jackets that I've never worn before, because I have at 15 of them. But there's one particular jacket I will never ever part from. I don't care if anybody offered me any amount of money, I will never part from this particular jacket. And I'll tell you what that jacket is, if you don't mind.
Please. Oh yes, please.
The jacket was dedicated to a staff member who had passed away.
Oh my God.
And that jacket will always stay with me. I will never ever part with that jacket. And so that's it. But listen, I'm glad you have it. I'm glad you enjoy it. So that's it. Welcome to the family. It's like a gang. It's like a gang. You're in for life.
Oh, I love it. I'll be in the Letterman gang. That sounds good to me. Okay, so I don't want to. Again, we're not telling tales out of school. Ultimate respect for the family. Okay, I have that, but I want to probe a little bit deeper on what you just said, because that is astounding to me. There was a jacket that was dedicated to a staff member who passed. Can we know who and which jacket it was, or could we, if you want to keep who it was private, we keep it private? Can we tell which jacket it was?
I don't think there's going to be much of a problem with that. Her name was Michelle O'Callahan. She was a makeup person for Dave and the show. Wonderful lady, nice lady. And she unfortunately passed away from cancer. And the thing is, when we received the jackets, I saw in the symbol in the emblem where it normally would say Worldwide Pants, I saw an M, which was her first initial. And that's why I discovered that jacket was dedicated to her. A wonderful idea, wonderful person. And unfortunately, she's gone.
Wow. We've had a lot of tidbits come out already on this show. That's one I've not heard about, that one. And I mean, I hear about a lot of stuff, obviously not a secret to the staff and things like that, but that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful testament to the fact that you guys and gals are a family with all the stuff that happens in it. And hey man, if I got to be a third cousin, twice removed, that married into the friggin' place, I'm okay with that. And as far as I'm concerned, when you sent that to me, that's how I felt. And it was a beautiful feeling. We're already 45 minutes. We're gonna finish this up right now. But okay. There was a moment, and I hope that you and I didn't do a pre-interview, because you and I can just go. We're like jazz. You're Harry Belafonte, and I don't even know what I would be, but either way. There was a moment there's a moment that you told me in the past that I loved. And it was I asked you, and I think you're going to pick up on it right now. I asked you if there was ever a time specifically where Dave gave you a note or said anything to you about any of your performances on Coach's Corner. And there was one that was really special. And I would love if you would tell us that one reaction that Dave had.
Oh yeah, so this is kind of weird. This is crazy. So one day after the big Coach's Corner performance, he comes up off the elevator. He said, "Hey Artie," he said, "you saved the show." And I'm looking at him like, what the hell is he talking about? And I once again, I'm thinking this guy's joking on me. But he said that to me. He said, "I saved the show." Normally, I'm more likely to tear your business down. But the thing is, when he said that, I didn't know if it meant as a joke or if it was serious. But I think it seemed kind of sincere, because he didn't have to say that. He said that I saved the show, because I don't know what was going on prior to me poking my head on the camera. But hey, when he told me that, I never shared that with anybody. I shared that with you, because it never really resonated with me, and it still doesn't when he mentioned it to me. I don't know if he remembers it or not. I'm quite sure he does, because he remembers everything. But it was a very unusual experience. And I appreciate him, taking a moment to either say it sincerely or just jokingly.
Thank you for saying that again. From everything that I've learned, and I mean, who am I? But from everything that I've learned, he wouldn't say something like that if he didn't, if there wasn't a measure of sincerity to it. What a thing to have that legend say to you. And again, even that, it's like that moment that I made him laugh. It was like, oh my God, that's one little moment. And it seems to me that still there's a lot of folks I'm talking to in the background that are a little bit unsure about coming on the show, because all of y'all are so protective of Dave. And it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see this dedication to him. You all have it. You've got it. And to have that guy come and say to you, not good job in the office today. Cause I mean, obviously you're all a part of it. It was the show. It was the show. You saved the show, the most important part of what it is you guys do. And to say that to you, it must've gone right. I mean, once you kind of accepted it, it must've gone right to your heart.
Well, there was times after performances would come up and say, "Good job," and I'm like, okay, Yeah. But when that one particular thing he said, "I saved the show," I'm like, Jesus. what is he talking about?
Hmm.
You know, because I didn't think I was saving anything. I was probably pretty much tanking it.
Wow.
But listen, I appreciate the compliment.
You're gonna come back, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you and I. Okay, good. I appreciate you so much. Okay, so I'll say it. It's a bit of a different way. You saved this show. This show wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you. Again, a major part of the trail that led to this thing. You saved this show too, Artie. If your kindness in when this guy who just was watching from outside and wanted to be a part of things and wanted to contribute, you didn't just turn me aside. You opened up your heart to me, and I appreciate that so much. I love you, my man. I love you so much, Artie. Thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for the inspiration of doing this show. Thanks you for the inspiration of going out there, being the one-man party for everybody and putting smiles on people's faces. Thank you for being you, Artie.
All right, man. Thank you very much, Mike.
Much love for the entire Worldwide Pants family, the family before at NBC, and all of Dave's family from the Comedy Store, and everyone in between. We are excited about what is going on with this show. Lots of stuff coming down the pipe, and we're just getting started. So thank you very much. My name is Mike Chisholm. That is another episode of the Letterman Podcast with Mike Chisholm. Thank you, and good night. Thank you and good night. Woo!
Overcoat and underpants.